Glenn of Screen Man. So I know you guys just said don't put anything on the internet about Sonic to the panel, but you know, I mean, what would you all return if there was a Frontiers 2, and also what would you like to see from your characters going forward in that take on the franchise?
I think we all would say yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Glad to hear it.
As voice actors, like, would you want to work again? Yes. Yes, please.
Especially
For
for
something
something
age,
age,
especially.
especially
Yeah,
a
that's a
positive
great
thing for all of
stage
us.
question.
Yeah, it's a great
I mean,
stage question.
I think it would be cool to see Sage become even more human. I'm sure she has lots of the world to explore and lots of friends of Sonic that she could meet. That would be really amazing. And seeing her develop would be really, really beautiful. I would love that. Yeah.
What's your question?
Guys, it's amazing to have all of you here. My question is to Colleen. Obviously, you've had the privilege of being a part of the film franchise. I guess I have to ask, how do you feel about the news that everyone has been losing their minds over, that not only do we have Mr. Keanu Reeves officially now as our Shadow, but we also officially have Jim coming back in some form or another?
I was so excited to hear that Jim was coming back because I feel like that's one of those, he's got all of these iconic roles that he's had, and something about he puts on that Eggman skin, and it's just he does a really beautiful job with it. I think just to be part of it at all is I don't even know what to say. It still feels surreal. I still ask my husband, like, did that really happen? Like we did, the premiere and everything, and I look at the pictures and I'm like, it just seems like, I don't know, but I'm so grateful and honored to be part of it. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and I can't wait for you all to see the third one. I got to read the whole script, so I know stuff, but I can't say anything.
But I mean, specifically with Shadow joining that iteration of Sonic, particularly with Keanu's voice, can you talk about how excited you are for that?
I can't. I'm so sorry. I'm not allowed to comment in any way, shape, or form on that. I was sent a very specific email.
No, you're not allowed to tell people you love Keanu Reeves.
I'm not.
It'd destroy the franchise.
I can't even. How do you spell that? I don't.
Yeah. Sven, did you have a question?
So hi, Sven from the Sonic Stadium. Lots of Sonic fans really enjoyed your panel. I was live tweeting as you were going, and it was full of banter, and everybody loved it. I guess because you guys are here collectively as the Sonic Frontiers voice cast, figured I'd ask a question about Sonic Frontiers, right? Kind of makes sense. So I kind of wanted to get an understanding from your point of view as to your experience kind of voicing the characters and the direction that the characters kind of went in that game, because it was kind of a departure from previous Sonic games where it was all very fun and colourful, and this game was very kind of almost depressing in a kind of other side.
Yeah, off-putting.
Off-putting.
Yes.
That's our
there
chosen
was
word.
a guy starting out a question in Sacramento. He's like, first of all, I know everybody thinks the new voices are really off-putting, but we just and everybody.
Why did
like,
you decide?
What?
We're reclaiming that word.
You said this.
He liked my shoes, though.
There you go. There you go. Sorry, Sven.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so finish off the question. I mean, Roger, there's a famous now, I guess, video of you at another con talking about.
It was
how
at that
you
con,
had to
too.
go with
Yes.
Sonic, right?
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of get any more kind of perspective from your side on voicing Sonic for that game, and from the rest of the panel about how they kind of took on that role, and Ryan yourself as well, like playing Sage, a new character in the Sonic series for the first time as well. So how you approach that character as well. So I'm kind of keen to get your thoughts on that.
From the change from Sonic, it made perfectly good sense once I started reading the script and realizing, like, my default is to go old school, like back to 2010, and that sort of video about me talking about Jack Fletcher, our voiceover director on the project, about giving me the new direction kind of a thing, was taken very much out of context, and they made it seem like it was critical of that whole thing, but it really was just more like, oh, okay, so this is a more serious or depressing, sort of Sonic, but it was just there were more stakes. The stakes were much higher, and as I thought about it, I thought, if you're gonna go with this, as your voice, it's a little too maybe broad and snarky and comical, and so it made perfectly good sense that they would have kind of shifted it. And kudos to Sega for even taking that risk, I think, because it was such a departure from what they had been doing since 2010. This was the biggest departure we've had from like a performance perspective, and I thought it worked so well. So it was not off-putting.
Contrary to the rumors.
No, yes. Not at all.
Eli, did you have a question?
Yes, I'm Eli with Nugget Productions. I have a question for Roger. How did you find the change from going from like such a comical, witty character with Sonic to voicing someone like dark and gritty like Carl Frame from Dying Light?
Oh gosh, it's the best part of what we do. It's what we live for. I think very often is just it's one of the greatest things about my job is that I get to have those departures, and there's something very surreal about writing like gotta go fast, and then somebody else coming up and me saying, okay, now how do I sign something for Kyle Crane without using the F word? that sort of juxtaposition between all the different characters. It's the exciting part about what we get to do, as opposed to I think on-camera actors where you're sort of married to your aesthetic very often, and that's what kind of dictates what role you might be taking on. We have just a theater of the mind. It's just the best thing to be able to like depart and do all these different characters. So I live for it.
Connor, do you have a question?
Yep. Sonic Frontiers is the most open world Sonic game we've had to date. If you could have a Sonic game in any country, what country would it be?
France.
France?
Yeah.
Because Tails wants to fly to the top of the Eiffel Tower?
I think that would be a really good skyline addition.
Yes, I was also thinking France.
Maybe Micronesia, just lots of islands.
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
We're going,
So, yeah, I mean, kind of have an island thing for Knuckles. So maybe a place where there's a lot of islands.
Fair.
Okay, well then I'm gonna go
The
with Monaco. I mean, just for the Formula One aspect of like watching Sonic,
Race cars.
hit the chicanes in the perfect way. I would go with Monaco. Not technically a province, right? Is it not? What is that?
I don't know.
Principality.
Principality.
yeah.
Thank you. Yes. So I'm getting an American. I know nothing about politics, geography, or geometry is not my specialty. No, sorry. Bad joke. No, I'd go Monaco because you got to go fast.
Never misses a chance.
Never. I mean, you got to plug. It's like, I'm a corporate shill. That's what I do.
I'm Adam from Nintendo Players UK. So what we wanted to ask you is what made you want to get into voice acting in the first place, and what was your first voice acting role that you remember?
So I was doing musical theater at the University of Michigan, and I wasn't going to go on to do musical theater because I was burnt out, whatever. But I also didn't want to do more school because I was doing 2 majors, wasn't sure. But I always just did voices. Somebody overheard me doing one, and they came up and they're like, "Was that you?" And I'm like, "Sorry." And they said, "No, you need to do voiceover." And as soon as they said that, I went, that's somebody's job. Like, yeah. So that was it for me. That was my first like, I have to do this. And I moved to Los Angeles and even bugged people until they let me do it. And my very first paying job was a reporter Barbie book where you hit the button. I was Skipper. It's fun to be a reporter. It's fun to be a reporter. It's fun. That was my very first official voiceover job.
Ryan?
Okay, so what got me into why I wanted to do voiceover is I love the freedom. I like that you can be, I can be little boys and women and old grandmothers. It's like the range is just, you can be anything. You can be creatures, sea turtles, unicorns, and I like the fantasy element, getting to play in different worlds or different planets. Like it's just limitless. There's and I always really loved cartoons as a kid. Who didn't? And then my first, I guess, role, like voiceover job that I remember, I have been doing voiceover since I was a kid. So I started on Radio Disney. They use real kids. I don't know if you guys have Radio Disney out here actually, but we have in America. We have a radio station for when I was little. It was like Jonas Brothers and Cheetah Girls and stuff like that for kids. And they use real children to do their promos, and they're on air all of the different stations throughout the country. And we had a big office in Dallas, which is where I'm from. So I was doing Radio Disney, we're all ears. They have all these little tags and stuff that they use real kids for, and that's how I kind of started. And then it was just this long slog until I was able to get into animation, and that's always been the dream, is to do cartoons for me, which is cool because Sonic is a very cartoony franchise. Like in terms of video games, it's a pretty cartoony one, but not necessarily Frontiers or Sage. but yeah, that's kind of how it started for me.
Very similar. I also was a child working for Radio Disney, and
Were you really?
no.
Okay. I'm like,
You're gonna have to clarify.
Yeah. Hanging on your every word.
What?
I was not. No. But I'd say a lot of the same answer, honestly, just the freedom and always, grew up as a musician and an actor and always had a good ear for accents and dialects and characters, things like that. So it was a thing of like, the realization one day, this is a thing, I can do this. And one of the things I think if you talk to probably most voice actors, that you'll find a lot of us have a music background because it's a sonic art, no pun intended. But we're creating art with sound. So we talk in musical terms, we direct in musical terms, we get direction in musical terms. So that whole being able to sort of apply those two things together, those two different sort of creativities, but using a lot of the same skill set to create different things was really appealing. And figured out, there's a thing, and so I just busted my butt for a lot of years and worked really hard, and here we are.
You were singing too.
I was a musical youth artist representing theater as a kid and all that stuff. But really and truly, what happened is in my 20s, I was a stand-up comic, and I was not. Nobody was asking about my stand-up comedy. They kept saying like, "Oh, you have a radio voice or something. Are you a DJ? Or are you?" And I was doing voices and characters, and they were like, "Oh, you should really look into that." And the industry kept saying that. It wasn't saying you're such a great stand-up. We want to see what else you do. It was more like, you ever thought about something else? And I went and did it, and then literally my first gig was I got $75 for doing a dialysis nurse training video. Literally for nurses who worked in dialysis, and it was a training video, and I did all these voices for this guy, and it was like I just had such fun doing it, and it paid, unlike stand-up comedy. And it was like, I think I'm gonna go do this, and ever since I've never looked back.
Question?
I think obviously one of the main ways that fans love to celebrate and enjoy this franchise is with an abundant amount of memes. I personally don't watch anything unless it's been approved by Knuckles. I'm curious if each of you have your favorite meme or kind of in-joke from Sonic that you particularly enjoy seeing out there in the wild.
I can't get enough of the Keanu Reeves memes that are going on. Anything you want to say on that? Or I love icing you in this moment right now. Can't say anything. No, I actually have been purposely not looking for the memes, because some of the memes I've seen involving Sonic are not safe for
memes.
work. They're mean memes. Yes. No, I avoid memes as best I can.
I think some of my experience with them is when fans come up and want you to reenact a meme, that's probably, and they have to show it to me sometimes. I have no idea what it is. So they'll say, the meme where Knuckles does, I'm like,
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, they show it to me. Okay, and sometimes it's
never.
Yeah, we're not going to do that one.
Never let them show you.
Other times, it's like, okay, you know what?
That happened. Have you seen
fair
the
enough?
thing?
We can do that.
Yeah, and I look at it and I go, no,
I've had some pretty
I
innocent
no.
ones, fortunately. So
I'm not writing that.
You're right.
There's one I like that's there's one I like that's like it's the meme where like a parent is playing in the pool with their kid, and then another kid's like like and it's like Eggman like playing with Sage, but then the other kid that's being ignored and is like drowning is like either Cubot or Orbot or like one of the other Eggman creations. So I like the ones that are like favorite child Sage memes would be the genre.
I will say Sanic. Sanic is one of the best things that's ever happened. And the fact that they literally licensed their own version of Sanic and had shirt. I own like 3 of the shirts. So I was like, that's cool. That's neat that they finally went there. So I'll go with Sanic. That's a safe meme, feels like.
Probably have time for just 1 or 2 more questions.
I had a random question, but it's kind of directed towards Roger and Colleen, mostly because it's a question about like the role voice actors have between them and the kind of designers and the developers of the games that they're working with. And Roger, you've been pretty much the longest running voice of Sonic since I think the Alton Towers.
I hope that's wood.
You
I don't think it's
Well,
like some sort of composite material.
Yeah, it's quite hollow. You're like the longest running Sonic. Long may that continue. And Colleen, like I think you were in the movies mostly because of your skill, but also the fans just really wanted you in the movie as well. Like there was just a pure passion behind that. So
What's that like?
with that, everybody loves you, Roger.
No,
but my point is like you've seen like the Super Mario Charles Martinet voice actor. Like he has not only become like a voice of a character, he's basically become just as much a stalwart of the character kind of brand and a voice for the brand and the franchise itself as the character, right? So how do you guys feel about that for yourselves, as Sonic and tales. You know, you're not just guys who do the voice of a character under direction. You know, I imagine you guys also have some kind of creative input in the projects you run and the projects you're involved in, and also in terms of the sort of brand safety and franchise sort of.
Well, I don't run anything.
I know, yeah, exactly.
They call, I show
we
up.
have very little.
Well, I one of the, I mean, I don't know why it took me so long to realize, but this will be year 10 for me, because I started in 2014, and I was like,
Nice.
10 years with this little guy, and it's just so exciting, and really, it's just really surreal and just really, really cool. But as far as like my input, like I don't feel worthy, like I don't feel qualified to contribute in that way, in like a content sort of way. I don't feel like I know enough, or I don't know, but
That's
that
true,
being
though.
said,
I can agree with her.
yeah,
Like that.
yeah.
No, you
Yeah.
should not.
But
Don't
that being
contribute.
said, like when we worked on Sonic Boom, and then again also with the movies, they were very open to improvisation, which was a beautiful thing. Like it's so nice, it's so freeing. Like you have comedy background. I did improv for a long time, and it's just so nice to be like, believe me, the writers are brilliant, and most of the, I mean, it's already great on the page. Like it's already, nothing needs to be touched. But when they allow you that freedom to just kind of work off of each other and do, you know, have fun with it, and some of it makes it in whatever thing, that's pretty cool.
It's not lost. I mean, like, the idea that the like I've got this, like, you know, my fingers are crossed that I might be able to make it to like the 35th anniversary of the character. I think 2026 would be incredible, and obviously we still have projects that are coming out, and we're still working, and this is great. But it's just not lost on like how incredible to think that when people think of like gaming, there's like Mario, Sonic, Pac-Man. I mean, like it's like there's a small list that sort of becomes iconic, and to be a part of it. And I'm what, the 5th, 6th. There's 3 of us currently voicing. We've got Devin, we've got Ben. It's incredible to be a part of something so massive that has such global sort of recognition and impact, and it's amazing. And it's at events like this where you get to realize, and you have people who share their stories with you, where they go like, this character means so much to me because when I was little, I was going through a rough time, and this was my release, or this was my escape, or that kind of thing. So it's surreal. It's and it's an interesting thing to kind of like dance around that, where you're like, on one level you're sort of a human being who's trying to navigate your own little life, and then you get to be a part of this thing that represents something to so many people. It's just, yeah, it's incredible. To say it's an honor is like, it just doesn't do it
You need
justice.
a different word,
Yeah.
a better word than
Yeah.
that, because it really is like it's like just to even be a small part of this franchise that is just so huge. And who knew? I mean, Blue Hedgehog.
I know, and that's the other thing too. You're like,
You know, like,
well,
why?
I'm a grown man who voices a talking blue hedgehog, and it means a lot to people somewhere. And you've got like other adults like your age going, really? Like,
Yeah.
you call that work? It's like, no, it actually means something to people. It's like, people line up to meet you. Like, why? Like, because of this thing that we get to be a part of. And it's unreal.
On that note, thank you guys. I have to wrap it up.
Oh.
Unfortunately.
Gotta go
Thank
fast.
you so much for everything.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much, guys.